Deploying web application with Elastic Beanstalk. In this video, we will learn how to use AWS Elastic Beanstalk service to deploy web application quickly in the cloud. And Elastic Beanstalk is a service that AWS provide, and it helps you deploy applications quickly without having to worry about the infrastructure behind it. So Elastic Beanstalk will provision resources for you such as EC2 instance, load balancers, RDS databases, and it will also help you download updates to your instance automatically. You don't have to worry about the infrastructure upgrades in the backend, and you only have to worry about your code deployment and your code development. So let's see how we can deploy a Java-based game using Elastic Beanstalk. Once we log into our AWS console, we can find Elastic Beanstalk under the Compute section. And once we log in for the first time, it will show us this tutorial about Elastic Beanstalk to show us the different features. We can click Get Started to start our first web application under Elastic Beanstalk. So in this, we will call this application My Web Game. And under Platform, we can see the different applications supported by Elastic Beanstalk. We have a wide variety of applications that are supported by this platform. And whatever language you choose here, Elastic Beanstalk will deploy an EC2 instance running all the code compilers needed to run this language. So we will choose Tomcat since we are using a Java-based application, and we can either use a sample application, which is just going to be hello world, or we can upload our code from our PC or from an S3 bucket. So I'm going to upload my game in a zip format, and this will be my application. It will be pushed directly to the Tomcat server, and we can click Display More option to configure all the details in our Elastic Beanstalk environment. And with Elastic Beanstalk, we can either deploy our application using a single tier instance. This will be free tier eligible because it will use the free tier instance, or we can use the spot instance. And spot instance are a special type of instance priced upon supply and demand, and the price changes based on the demand on this instance. However, spot instances are unpredictable because if someone bid higher price on those instances, you will lose your bid and the instance will be terminated immediately. And therefore, you should not use spot instance for critical workloads, and you can only use spot instance as supplemental instance or as an instance that does some work in the background that doesn't get affected if the instance get terminated and can be handled by a different system. And also, Elastic Beanstalk support high availability and high availability hybrid options using spot and on-demand instance to save on cost. And next we see our platform. Right now we are using Tomcat 8.5. We can change it to use an older Tomcat version, or we can keep using the latest version for the latest security updates. Now under all these boxes, we will see all the different details about our Elastic Beanstalk application. So we can see our application component broken down into different areas such as capacity. And under capacity, we see that we are using T2 micro instance, and this is the free tier eligible instance size. So this application will use a single instance of the free tier, and therefore Elastic Beanstalk will be under the free tier. We also see things like security, rolling updates, and load balancer. So you can directly configure a load balancer from your Elastic Beanstalk environment, and this has to be combined with a high availability system, and therefore you would have multiple instances that you can load balance to. But the best thing about Elastic Beanstalk is it has a manage updates feature. So if we enable the manage updates feature, this will allow Elastic Beanstalk to automatically update our instance for us at the time and day we choose. And this way we don't have to worry about updating our EC2 instance all the time, because Elastic Beanstalk will take care of it and we can focus on the code deployment and the code development. So we can enable this option. We also see an option for network, and This will show us the VPC where our resources are created. In this case, we are using the default VPC, but we also have an option to create a custom VPC with our own IP addressing space. Also, if we're planning to make this application publicly accessible, we need to make sure we mark our assign a public IP address to our EC2 instance. Therefore, our application can be accessed from outside. And we can also choose the availability zone we have our application available. So if we were to choose a high available option, our application will be deployed in these different AZs. And we also see an option for database. So there is a connection between Elastic Beanstalk and RDS, and it can help you simplify the creation of a database to use within your application. So we can use Elastic Beanstalk to host our PHP application, for example, and we can also back it up with a MySQL database hosted in RDS but managed under Elastic Beanstalk. For this application, we don't need a database, so we can skip the database part. Now we have all the configuration ready, we can just create app. And now we are looking into the log for the application deployment. And in this step, Elastic Beanstalk will deploy all the resources needed to run our application. So first, it created a security group, followed by Elastic IP address to host our application in the cloud. And it also created an EC2 instance for us. And this EC2 instance will have Tomcat installed on it already with all the prerequisites and all the dependencies. And also the application that we uploaded as a zip file. And now we see successfully launch environments. So now our application is ready for use. So now we are on the overview page for our Elastic Beanstalk application. We see all the information related to our application, including the URL. So once we open this URL, this will load our web application game. So we didn't have to do anything as far as the infrastructure provisioning or the infrastructure configuration. The Elastic Beanstalk simplified and accelerated our application deployment. We can focus on the code itself. And also, if we upgrade our application, we can simply go back to our environment and we can click upload and deploy. And we can update our zip file with the newer version, and this will automatically replace our application on this URL. Now under configuration, we can see all the details that we configured during the setup process, like the software, instance, capacity, load balancer, and all other details related to our application. We can come here and modify anything if we change our configuration. Also under logs, right now we don't have any logs, but if we click request log, this will send a request to the instance and it will come back to us with this downloadable file, and inside that there will be access logs from all different applications inside our instance. So this is very useful for diagnostics and for monitoring. Starting from the top, we are getting our HTTPD or our web server access log. So this would show us all the requests and all the response types going into our web server. And also the localhost access log and error log from our web server. And Catalina is also a log related to Tomcat. So this log aggregator tool collected logs from all these files and compiled it into this single file. And next we can go to health, and health would provide you information related to your web application performance, and it will break the request response codes for us by number. So all the requests in the 200 range, which is good, is showing as 66%. 300 range is for redirect, so it's not a problem either. And as long as we are low in the 400s and the 500s, then our application should be working in the best state. We also see different latency benchmarking for our application. So this gives us a very good overall view on our application, especially if we have a lot of instances. This will allow us to quickly get an overview of all the instances. And next we have our monitoring, which shows us something similar to CloudWatch, which shows the CPU utilization, network in and out, environment health status over time, and we can also change the time range on these to show a longer period of time. And next, our manage updates, and this would show us all the updates that has been pushed to the device. Right now our instance is new, so there is no update history yet, But once the updates take place in the first week, you should be able to see the update history and the update result. And finally, our event log would show us all the information related to our application deployment and our health checks. Now, Elastic Beanstalk deployed our EC2 instance for us as part of this application. So if we go to check our EC2 console, we will see a new instance for our web application running on Elastic Beanstalk. And this will be the My Web Game instance, and it shows the same public IP we had on the Elastic Beanstalk. Also, we can see the IAM rule associated with this instance is AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So this EC2 instance with all the provisioning on it was created by Elastic Beanstalk. Now, Elastic Beanstalk also keeps monitoring your application to make sure your instance is working all the time. So if we come here to our EC2 instance, and if we try to terminate this instance to break our application on Elastic Beanstalk, we can also release the Elastic IP associated with this. And once we terminate, it takes a few minutes for Elastic Beanstalk to figure out that this instance is no longer healthy. And now our instance is terminated. So if we go back to Elastic Beanstalk and try to monitor our application, now our application is showing health status pending. And if we check our recent events, we can see a warning that says this instance is no longer considered healthy and it has been removed from our Elastic Beanstalk pool. That means Elastic Beanstalk was able to figure out that the instance is no longer responding to requests and our application is completely down. But if we go again to EC2 and try to refresh, we will see another EC2 instance that has been created automatically and it's currently in the initialization stage. And if we refresh Elastic Beanstalk as well, we can see the Elastic Beanstalk added another instance with a different instance ID. And now our new environment is showing okay. So if we try to access our new instance, now our application is back working again. So therefore, Elastic Beanstalk will always keep monitoring on your instance. And if it sees that one of the instances is no longer available, it will automatically recreate another instance with the same application. Your application will always be live. And finally, to terminate an application, we can simply go and terminate environment. And this will warn us that all the resources associated with this application will be destroyed. So we can confirm by adding our application name. And Elastic Beanstalk will go through steps to clean up your environment and remove all the resources. So all the resources from the application has been completely wiped out. And now our application is no longer accessible. And that's how you deploy web application using Elastic Beanstalk. Thank you for watching.